Get it? Okay. All right. No, it's not going to be so awkward if my jokes are bad. And if you laugh without me cueing you, you will be spared my lame facial expressions, okay? So, okay. Does anyone here know Matt Z? Okay. Well, I noticed Matt the first time I saw him at a meeting, which is not easy to do because he blends right in. He's just wallflower. And I admit, I think that why I noticed him is because he has better hair than I do. But the first time I spoke to him, I asked him a question that I realize now probably could have been pretty offensive. Luckily, he didn't get ticked off at me. And we've developed a friendship over the years that have become very important to me. So I've been able to see Matt applying program principles in various aspects of his life. I've seen him deal with and overcome everything that life's brought him, things pertaining to family and health, financial issues, romantic issues, service, sponsoring, and so forth, good times and bad. And I respect the heck out of this guy. I really do. He's trustworthy, even in my most embarrassing moments. He's openly honest about his. It's a good trait. Very direct guy, and I never have to ask him what he really means. So Matt's not the friend that's going to tell me what I want to hear. And there's no flattering BS that ever comes out of his mouth. But he is the friend that tells me the truth, and tells anyone the truth if they ask. And doesn't matter whether I'll be mad about it. And I'm so happy that he cares enough to be that honest. So Matt is the one who, in the most irritating moments, will ask me, "Have you done an inventory on that?" And so, yeah. So he doesn't say it with any accusation or judgment. He just genuinely wants to know whether I've gained any insights, that might help me deal with things in a more positive way. So after secretly rolling my eyes and thinking, fine, I go ahead and I do the inventory, and I always feel much better. Yeah, I always feel much better. So, I think it's like they should write a book about that or something, doing that inventories. But I have learned a lot from Matt, from his example. I ask questions when I don't understand things, and I vent occasionally. I share my thoughts and opinions, and I've learned what a balanced friendship can be and how to handle difficulties in a spiritually mature manner. Because Matt's always changing and growing, I also get to learn and grow as well, just from being friends with him. So I look forward to hearing from him today, because I know that the person he is right now is not the person that he was even a few months ago. And I love that. I know I'll hear a new talk tonight. So I'm very grateful and amazed that our paths crossed. And I wasn't sure what I was looking for when I started attending open AA meetings a few years ago. I mean, I did expect to get to learn new insights and gain recovery, and I did learn those things. But I didn't know how much I needed this amazing person in my life. So thank you for making me put that into words, even if it's in front of, 80-some people. And thank you for being exactly who you are. And I have to mention that Matt is a really, really good listener. Me, not so much. I am the kind of person that will interrupt him and talk about myself like a little preschool kid, like, hey, I got to tell you something. And so personally, I'm very grateful that at this event, I get to hear him talk, and he won't be getting interrupted by me, for once. So while I give him the gift of my silence, please enjoy giving him your attention. Matt?
Some things never change. Before I begin, I really want to thank the committee for asking me to come here and speak. I was asked to come and speak here last year. I could not make it. So my then sponsor came here and spoke. So I'm a year late, and thank you for patiently waiting for me. And that's a good insight into how I think about myself. I really do believe that everybody is thinking about me, and that it's all about me all the time. The only time I'm considering anybody else's feelings is when it affects me. So I've thanked the committee. I want to thank everybody that has prepared food and everybody that has served here. Without these people, this event would not be possible. So I just want to ask everybody to give a round of applause to everybody that has helped out today. I want to thank Maureen for coming here and speaking. It's very insightful. Without Al-Anon in my program, I would not have the benefit of learning some things about my family. So thank you, Maureen. Okay, so let's do this. My name is Matt Zanke. I'm a grateful, recovered alcoholic. Hi. My sobriety date is December 7th, 2010. I often state that I'm recovered because I do not suffer from a hopeless state of mind and body anymore. And I do not want to have anyone think that I'm cured of alcoholism. It's a lifelong disease. I'll always have it. So I wanted to start off with something that I printed out today. I often have a unrealistic idea of who I am at any given moment. Sometimes when I'm surrounded by people, I believe that I am alone. I'm isolated or I'm misunderstood. That the things I say will often go over people's heads and people look at me quizzically. And that's not because that's what's actually going on, it's because that's what's going on inside my head. When I was out there drinking, I drank for 18 years. I am a sole alcoholic. Drugs are a part of my story, but because I believe in singleness of purpose, I will stick solely to alcoholism or alcohol. My mother gave me a poem along with some CDs from a pastor in Indianapolis to listen to, and hadn't hit a bottom at that point, but it really gave me a lot to consider. It was that planting of those seeds all throughout my drinking. And this poem is called The Mask I Wear. Please forgive me if I cry. Don't be fooled by me. Don't be fooled by the face I wear, for I wear a mask. I wear 1,000 masks, masks that I'm afraid to take off, and none of them are me. Pretending is an art that's second nature with me, but don't be fooled. For God's sake, don't be fooled. I give you the impression that I'm secure, that all is sunny and unruffled with me, within as well as without. That confidence is my name, and coolness my game, that the water's calm and I'm in command, and that I need no one, but please, don't believe me. My surface may be smooth, but my surface is my mask, my ever-varying and ever-concealing mask. Beneath lies no smugness, no complacence. Beneath dwells the real me in confusion and fear and aloneness, but I hide this. I don't want anybody to know it. I panic at the thought of my weakness and fear exposing them. That's why I frantically create my masks to hide behind. They're nonchalant, sophisticated facades to help me pretend, to shield me from the glance that knows. But such a glance is precisely my salvation, my only salvation, and I know it. That is, if it's followed by acceptance, and if it's followed by love, it's the only thing that can liberate me from myself, from my own self-built prison walls. I dislike hiding. Honestly, I dislike the superficial game I'm playing, the superficial phony game. I'd really like to be genuine, and me, but I need your help, your hand to hold, even though my masks would tell you otherwise. That glance from you is the only thing that assures me of what I can't assure myself, that I'm really worth something. But I don't tell you this. I don't dare. I'm afraid to. I'm afraid you'll think less of me, that you'll laugh, and your laugh will kill me. I'm afraid that deep down I'm nothing, but that I'm just no good, and you will see this and reject me. So I play my game, my desperate pretending game, with a facade of assurance without and a trembling child within. So begins the parade of masks. The glittering but empty parade of masks, and my life becomes a front. I idly chatter to you in suave tones of surface talk. I tell you everything that's nothing, and nothing of what's everything, of what's crying within me. So when I'm going through my routine, do not be fooled by what I am saying. Please listen carefully and try to hear what I am not saying. Hear what I'd like to say, but what I cannot say. It will not be easy for you. Long-felt inadequacies make my defenses strong. The nearer you approach me, the blinder I may strike back. Despite what books say of men, I am irrational. I fight against the very thing that I cry out for. You wonder who I am. You shouldn't, for I am every man, and I am every woman who wears a mask. Do not be fooled by me, at least not the face I wear. With that being said, anything that I say that is unique, funny, sounding original is not coming from me. Every time I come up and I get to have the opportunity to speak, it is really an honor to do this for Alcoholics Anonymous, and this is not about me. I'm going to attempt to share with you about what it was like, what happened, what I'm like now, about how I've come to have a connection to my higher power that I call God. So, with all that being said, I'm going to ask for about 10 seconds of silence, and then we're going to pray. God, please set aside everything I think I know about myself, the 12 steps, the people in this room, Alcoholics Anonymous and Al-Anon, so that I might have an open mind and a new experience in myself, the 12 steps, this room, and the programs of Alcoholics Anonymous and Al-Anon. So like I said, it's an honor and a privilege to be here. My story is really insignificant in a lot of ways. But there are very significant people in my life that without them, I wouldn't be here. You know, I am eternally grateful for Al-Anon because without a member of Al-Anon making a suggestion to me, you would have an entirely different speaker tonight. I'm adopted, but that's not why I'm an alcoholic. I'm Native American, but that's not why I'm an alcoholic. I'm a man, but that's not why I'm an alcoholic. I have an upbringing that's as normal as it can be, you know. I would describe my upbringing as upper middle class. I don't know what my parents would describe it as, but I never went without. I was taught very early on that if I wanted something, I had to be willing to work for it. I always wanted you just to give it to me, you know, give me this, you know. And I was encouraged, no, you do the work, you put in the time and the effort, and you'll get the result. But that never changed in me. You know, still to this day, there's a part of me that says, give it to me now. I look at this and I'm like, I want this talk to be over now, you know. Maybe some of you are saying that, I don't know. So, I am an alcoholic because I like the effect that alcohol produces for me. It did something for me that I could not do for myself. I wasn't really a weird kid. I never did anything strange. I mean, I lit fires and did stuff like that and got pulled into the fire department But I wouldn't think that that's strange, you know. That was normal for me, you know. I had friends, I played sports, I did well in school until I was 10 years old. I barely graduated high school without the help of my parents. You know, I started drinking when I was 14. And the first time I drank, I loved it. I rhymed, you know, like I had Dr. Seuss rhyming, not like rapping or anything like that, but I was like rhyming to the point that my friends were annoyed with me. You know, they would say, "Would you just shut up?" And I didn't, you know, and that's kind of who I am. Once you get me talking, I'm not going to stop. And it's funny because like when my dad was in the hospital last year, we saw one of our priests from when I was growing up, and he said, you would never say anything. And I, again, got a glimpse of who I didn't realize who I was, you know. He said, you could say anything to you, and you just would never say anything. And I didn't know that about myself because the internal dialogue was so loud that I thought that I was always having a conversation. The book talks about how it's not only a physical allergy, it's a spiritual malady, obsession of the mind, you know. The longer I stay here, I don't really see any difference between myself and normal people except how much I drank, because I realize how obsessed so-called normal people can be. You know, they're just obsessed in their own way. It's given me a greater understanding for compassion than anything. I'm not as quick to judge as what I used to be. So throughout high school, I drank on the weekends, you know, and that was normal for me. My parents didn't know about it. They didn't know that I was smoking pot on a daily basis. I was a 3-sport athlete, and it wasn't uncommon for me to finish running 5K and then getting in the back of the bus with these 2 girls and drinking vodka out of Gatorade bottles, you know, and that's what we would do. That was normal. And those same 2 girls, they were really good friends of mine. Those 2 girls were on track as well, and that's what we would do. I would run really hard, and I would do really well, and then I would go drink. I was an Eagle Scout. I'm still an Eagle Scout. At a very early age, you know, not like 11 or 13, but 15. And I wanted to get out of Boy Scouts, and that was my way of getting out of Boy Scouts. Was my mom said, if you get an Eagle Scout, you can get out of Boy Scouts. And boy, I tell you, it was like in no time that happened, you know. Willpower did not seem to be an issue for me when it suited me best. But you couldn't get me to do anything that I didn't want to do. Pick up your room. Nope. Mow the lawn. Nope. And here are the 20 reasons why. You know, I've written my dissertation on why I shouldn't empty the dishwasher. Yeah. I'm willing to, yeah, my mom's shaking her head. I am willing to put in the effort to not do these things than I am to do these things. You know, and when I was arrested, well, I was cited. I wasn't arrested. I was cited for minor consumption when I was 19, and it was a homecoming weekend for football. And, you know, I got court-ordered to AA for the very first time, you know, and read that. And I think at the time it was like 10 questions on, are you an alcoholic? And I answered yes to 8 of them. And I remember sitting there with my friends and saying, they want you to be an alcoholic, the way that they pose all these questions, you know? Totally clueless. Totally clueless. And I bid my time there, did my bit, and I left. I think I was court-ordered at that time to go to like 3 meetings or something. And I did it, and I was gone. And I was right back to drinking again. And then I was arrested for DUI. I'd attempted suicide at the age of 19. I was hospitalized for it. Had a really difficult relationship with my father. And not because of anything that he did, but just because of the way I was. And I remember he was the one that was there every single day. But I don't see that because I'm the most important person. You're getting in my way. You won't let me do what I want to do, you know. So I leave and I run away and I get out of the house and, you know, go off and live a life, and it seems like I can start getting it together, you know, and I don't, you know, because when I move away to New Mexico and have a girlfriend that I've been in a relationship for a while, and we're living in a place, and I've got a great job working for Whole Foods Market in Santa Fe, and I burned it all to the ground because drinking was the most important thing in my life. If you had asked me at that time if she had left me, I would have told you, yeah, she left me. But the truth of the matter is, I don't think there's any sane woman on this planet that would want to be in a relationship with someone that would go to work at 4 a.m, come home at noon, start getting high, and start drinking until they go to bed at 9 o'clock at night to get up at 3. And I held out as long as I could, you know, and eventually she left. And when she left, it was like, I've got a total reason now why I can do this all the time. And I lost my job with Whole Foods because of it, you know. When I worked there, I was one of the best employees that worked in that building. There's not a customer service award that I didn't win for the 2.5 years that I was there. You know, I mean, there was 1 month where I didn't win an award. So when I got fired from that place, people were crying when I left. And I didn't understand why. Why? I lost my job. You get to keep your job. Now I got to go find something else. You know, I don't understand why you're sad. They were sad because they were baffled by how can someone that produces results as well as you do lose a job that's unlosable, you know? These people cared about me, you know, and I didn't care. I was like, I'm happy if you're there and you're around me as long as I'm doing good. Truth of the matter was, I didn't really care. You could have been there, couldn't have been there. I would have been fine just by myself. And so I began building that lie. I'm okay by myself. So I come home with my tail tucked between my legs to Indiana, and this is where the downward decline of not being able to hold on to a job came into play. I went from being able to work, stay at a job for 4 years to 2 years to 1 year to 6 months to 1 month to 1 week to 1 day. And that's how I began living my life. I would go to work just so I could make enough money to drink. And I remember on these days that I just decided I was not going to go to work today, my friends would say to me, "What do you mean you're not going to go to work today?" And I would say, "Today's the day. I'm just not going back." And I wouldn't go back. And I burned a lot of bridges. I got a lot of jobs where I would become a manager within 30 days because they thought that I was intelligent enough to be able to do that kind of job. And these would be unlosable jobs, and I would find a way to lose them. And my circle of friends grows smaller and smaller, you know. The suicide attempts. I've got like 5 major suicide attempts that landed me in the hospital. And after each one of these attempts, you know, my group of friends would grow smaller and smaller because they didn't understand what's wrong with you. I didn't know what was wrong with me either. There's part of the book where it talks about restless, irritable discontent. That is a perfect description for how I was. I want a cake that has these photos laser printed on it. And when you do that, I'm like, well, it's not the exact same way that I pictured it in my mind. It's like, how the hell do you expect people to read your mind like that, you know? I show up in very weird ways. You know, I have a very weird code of morals and rules that I live by that nobody else seems to live by. You know, they can go to work, they can go to school, they can graduate. Me, I just decide today is the day I'm not going to go to work, and that's good enough for me. So I got arrested in what would begin my first attempt at AA. And I got a DUI driving from Bloomington to West Lafayette, a drive that I made every week, drunk, often drinking a six-pack of Tall Boys in my car and a bottle of Crown Royal. And I got pulled over in Martinsville, and I pulled myself over because I knew it was going to happen because I was speeding. I was doing 84 and a 45. I blew a .24, and what my lawyer would describe was the most polite drunk stop he'd ever seen, Because for whatever reason, when it comes to uniformed authority, I respond like no other, You give me a man or a woman in military garb, and I'm like, okay, tell me what lines I need to fall in between. You get a police officer, he's like, okay, tell me what lines to fall in between. Except for the whole, drinking while driving thing and smoking illegal substances and stuff like that. Very weird code of morals. So my lawyer talked to me and he said, I think that you should go to Alcoholics Anonymous and really make an attempt to try to work the steps because it would look good to the judge and you might get a lesser sentence if you started out on this. And I was like, okay. And he tricked me. That guy tricked me, I don't understand it. And I had been in Bloomington on a geographic because I got evicted again. That was commonplace for me. My friends had politely shipped me off to our religious friend that was living in Bloomington and going back to IU for a nursing degree. And he took me on because he was like, I'm going to save you. He's a guy that needs Al-Anon, He was going to save me, and what I did to him was I didn't find a job for the first 6 months I lived down there. I never paid rent. My job was to pay the water bill, which was like $30 a month, and I couldn't pull that off sometimes. It's like, sorry, I don't know what else you want from me. You're the reason I'm down here. You should be accommodating to me. Yeah. Wow. So that friendship ended. Surprise, surprise. I ended up coming back home to mommy and daddy with my tail tucked between my legs. And the agreement was that I could stay there if I didn't do drugs and I didn't drink, and I got a job. And I'll give you a really good idea of how I am when I'm drinking. I'm getting ready to go down back to Martinsville to serve time, or for a court date to find out how much more time I was going to serve. And my dad was going to drive me down there because my license was invalid. And my dad threw up because he was so afraid. He was nervous. And I got mad at him because this is my life, How can you get sick because I'm the one that has to go down there and do it? That was normal for me. That's not normal for him, But I have the arrogance and the audacity to believe that he should be accommodating to me and doing this stuff for me, He didn't have to do any of that for me. I still can be a pretty big jerk. But I was, the probably best way to describe it in the end was a monster. I was a monster to live with, and I was a monster to be around. So I half-hearted my way through AA. I found some guy that had what I wanted, and it was this guy that was like 6'4", he had blonde hair, blue eyes, big muscular guy. All the pretty girls wanted to talk to him. I was like, yeah, you got exactly what I want, I want all those pretty young girls around me, And he would tell me later that he wasn't even an alcoholic, that I think he said his barbiturates were what his drug of no choice were, And he made the attempt to walk me through the 12 steps. And I did a sort of inventory something I would never do today. It was like a stream of consciousness writing inventory. And like God was number one on the resentment list, followed very closely by me. The two most important things in my life. And it was garbage, you know. And it was only a matter of time. I was still on probation. And it was like a couple of months before probation got over, and I started thinking, I was like, I haven't talked to Carmen in a while. Wonder what Carmen's doing. It's like, am I really never going to take LSD ever again? It's like, am I really never going to smoke weed ever again? It's like, you know, I just don't have to drink. I can just do this other stuff, you know. And the day came that I decided that I was going to check out. And my parents were down in Mexico with my niece and my nephew who were living with us at the time. And I was watching SpongeBob like any normal 30-year-old would be. And I know that I had Loratab, and so I was bored, so I ate Loratab and I watched SpongeBob. And nothing happened. I was like, oh, wow, this is okay. It's like, didn't tell anyone, didn't tell the guy who was sponsoring. At this time, I wasn't going to meetings. I was lying about going to meetings. Are you going to a meeting? Yes. I'd just like leave for an hour and a half and go and smoke pot in Hort Park or something and then come back home. Yeah, I went to a meeting. It was the most spiritual thing I ever experienced, you know. Yeah. So 2 weeks from that day, I had gone from eating Loratab to smoking weed to doing cocaine to eating LSD and mushrooms again, and then right back to drinking. And I lost my job. I dropped out of school, got kicked out of the place I was living, which is my parents. They wanted to talk to me in the day that I relapsed, and my answer to them was no. And I walked out the door, and they didn't see me again until, I think, 4 or 5 months later. I don't understand when people relapse and they're like, oh, I was out for a day. I'm like, I'm gone for like months, you know, seriously. Because you know, I had that job and I made money and I had saving the money because I wasn't buying it on drugs and alcohol. So I got to drink like I wanted to drink. And this is where I reached the point of coming close to zero, you know. I was living in the Knights Inn on 26, and I stayed there for a couple of months until the money was running out. And then a friend of mine said, come stay with us. You know, he was going to help me too. And then 4 months into that, I, you know, come out of a blackout with my arms wrapped around his neck and I'm choking him out. I didn't mean for that to happen. I had crossed that invisible line that I had drawn in my head. You know, one code that I should never break, and that's you don't ever become violent that way with those that are very close to you. And I had done that. So that night he sat me down and he said, you know, I'm not okay with this. I'm not okay with this assaulting me in my own house thing. You can sleep it off and we're going to talk tomorrow and then that's going to be it. That was December 5th. So I did what I usually do, and that's wake up in the morning, and I don't even use a glass anymore. I just take the little plastic thing off the handle of vodka and just start drinking it. And that's what I'm doing when he's talking to me, you know, and he's like, I see you're up. And I'm like, yep, I'm up. You know, he's like, what did you want to talk to me about? And he said, well, you can't stay here anymore. And I was like, okay. And for me, it was just like that. It was matter of fact. And he said, but I want to tell you something first. He said to me, you know, you're the kind of guy that I know that when you get a job, you can rise to management pretty quick. He said, you're the kind of guy that I know that doesn't even have to try when he's studying. He said, you did none of that while you were here. He said, I was hoping that you would use the time that you were here to do that, to go get a job, to go back to school. He was the sous chef at Bistro 501. He said, you didn't even ask me if you could come work, because I have kitchen experience. You didn't even ask me if you could come work for me. He was like, I would have died to have someone like you work for me. And he said, you're killing yourself. I'm no longer willing to watch it. You got to go somewhere else to do it. And then he said the words to me that so many people in my life have said to me, but they finally sank into my heart, and that was, all I ever wanted from you is to be happy. And for whatever reason, that would be the last time that I was separated from alcohol. The handle of vodka was set down. I went out on my own, talked to my mom. She said, why don't you go back to AA? And I said, I know why I won't go back to AA. Because they'll know where I've been for the last 6 months. They'll know what I've been doing, you know? And I know that they'll be there with open arms and extended hands, and they'll tell me things like they're praying for me or that they love me. And I don't deserve that. Monsters don't deserve love, you know? We deserve to devour hate, you know, and spew that everywhere else. So I found myself walking back into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous on December 6th, 2010. And one of the guys that was sponsoring me while I was like half-hearting my way through this process said to me, I wasn't even in the door for less than 30 seconds, had breached the doorway, and he said, can I talk to you for a little bit? And I was like, okay. Pulled me aside into a room, and he said, have you found a sponsor? And I was like, no, I just got here. Already the ego had rebuilt itself, you know. Dr. Harry Thibault talks about the reemergence of the ego in the alcoholic. And within less than a 24-hour period, my ego had begun to rebuild itself. And so I was talking to him, and he said, you're not done. I said, because if you were done, you would find someone to be your sponsor today. It's like, okay. Let that sink in for a little bit, sit through the meeting. I asked someone to be my sponsor. It didn't work out. I asked someone else to be my sponsor. 2 days sober, I was certain I was going to drink again. I was on my way to the liquor store, and I'll say this about my drinking. I drank when I wanted to drink, and I drank even harder when I didn't want to drink. I don't know if anybody else can understand that. And I was getting ready to do that again. And I was getting ready to return to hell. So I called this guy John. And I said, John, I'm on my way to Barbary right now at 5 Points. It's like, I'm going to do it. Just wanted to say goodbye. He said, I'm at Natalie's Walking Dogs, right across the street from Barbary. Why don't you just come here and walk dogs instead? So I went and met with John. You know, we walked, made a few laps with these little tiny dogs, and it was cold. And I'm doing nothing but crying the whole time. And I found myself asking a question I had never asked before, and that was, how do you stay sober? And he said, I stay sober one day at a time. Sometimes it's hour to hour, sometimes it's moment to moment, but I stay sober one day at a time. And I said, will you sponsor me? And he said, yes, I will. He said, my goal is to get you through the steps as quickly as we can, because if you're going to stay sober for the rest of your life, you're going to have time to come back and address some of this stuff. And I said, okay. And he said, I come from rigidity, okay? I'm not there anymore, but I come from that. He said, you call me, go to this meeting tonight, call me. Okay. Call him, go to this meeting tonight, call me. Do you think you can make it through the night? Do you think you can make it through the next 8 hours without drinking or hurting yourself? Because I was self-harming. And he said, yeah. And he said, okay, when you wake up, call me. And I did that for like the first 3 days, you know. And he said, we're going to get together and we're going to talk about inventory, you know. And he said, you're going to do a resentment inventory, you're going to do a fear inventory, you're going to do sex inventory. And you are going to have all 3 of these inventories done by Friday, or else you can find another sponsor. It's like, okay. You know, and I would love to tell you that I jumped right into it and I was just, you know, strapped on my AA hat and said, I'm going to do this all the way. And I waited until Thursday evening to do my inventory, and I got it done, and I showed up the next day, and he said, let me guess, it took you 4 days and 2 hours to do this. And I was like, what do you mean? He said, it took you 4 days to think about it, and it took you 2 hours to do it. I said, you're right. And At this time, he had also said to me, you need to start introducing yourself to people in these meetings. You need to start putting your hand out there. And I said, well, some of these people that have seen me come in and out of these rooms, they don't want anything to do with me anymore, and blah, 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 blah. And he said, Matt, if you think you're so damn important, why don't you make the effort to introduce yourself to them? And so that's what I did. And I try to do that to this day, I used to be really good at it up until about 2 years ago, It was like everybody that came through the door, I was like, bam, I'm on you. So got through 4 and 5. 6 and 7 was an anomaly until just a couple years ago. It was like, what do you do with 6 and 7? Is like, I'm just going to mysteriously put these up here. He's like, you're not going to be working on them. You're just going to let God take care of it. I was like, okay, I guess. And he said, now we're going to start making a list. And he said, then you're going to start making amends. And he said, you're going to have everything written down on a piece of paper, and you're going to have a script that you're going to say to these people. And this is exactly what you're going to say. And once you say your piece, you're going to shut up. Okay. So I did that. Did it with my parents, did it with my sister. First one I did was my sister that passed away. Don't ever let anyone tell you that you can't make a graveside amends or that you can't make amends to someone that's died. Have some from the East Coast that were on my list. I said, I'm never going to get over there. Me, who I was at 30 days sober, couldn't understand how me, who I was at 3 years sober, would be in Connecticut. I just didn't see it, but it happened. I've learned to not say never in this program, I was listening to a speaker tape one time, and this woman from H&I had come in and talked to this guy while he was institutionalized. And she said, if I could give you all the program of recovery, I wouldn't do it because I wouldn't deny you the journey. I had to go through all that stuff to be able to get to where I am today. All the mistakes. I had a sponsor that asked me as the years had gone on to go through and highlight everything of where I was powerlessness in my big book in red, and then everywhere I came to believe in green. And I found that at that time I was highlighting some of the things about powerlessness were making me come to believe. And it was like every single day that I stay here, it just gets shifted a little more. A little bit of me gets chipped away, but in a good way, 10 and 11, I had really kind of trivialized. 12, I had trivialized. And at 18 months sober, I had found myself gossiping in the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I had settled amongst some friends that, water will seek its own level, I'm not here to judge them. And I was going to kill myself. 18 months sober, and I wanted to die. And so someone said to me, whatever you're going through, I hope you make it, and they give me a hug, and they walked away. And at that time, that's someone that wouldn't hug me, that normally wouldn't hug anyone that I would see. And I was like, oh man, this is really bad. If that guy's hugging me, then, I'm in trouble. And so it was like a couple days later, he saw me at a meeting, and he said to me after the meeting, what are you doing? And I was like, I think I'm going to go home. And he's like, do you want to go get some breakfast? And I was like, no, I got stuff to do. And he said, damn it, Matt, I got stuff I got to do too, but I'm willing to take the time to sit and talk with you. I was like, okay. And he said, why don't you go grab some of these people and bring them along with you? And in the past, I would have gone and I would have grabbed people that I knew, peers or whatever, as much as peers can be in AA. I grabbed 3 newcomers, totally foreign. Some were staying at the Home with Hope, and one of them was just someone off the street. And so we went to Panera Bread, and we sat there, and this guy got up after 10 minutes, and he said, well, I'll see you guys later. And I was pissed. I had gone from despair to anger in like a heartbeat. And what ended up happening was I ended up spending the next 2 hours talking to those people about Alcoholics Anonymous. That man saved my life. And since that day, I have not trivialized 12-stepping. I still was baffled by 10 and 11. You know, what does that even mean? And I've had many sponsors throughout this journey. You know, and I called that guy later in the day. I said, I don't know if you meant to do that, but you saved my life. I've had a lot of sponsors. I've had 6 sponsors in under 6 years of sobriety. Some of them have moved away. Some of them, we're just not on the same path anymore. We're not on the same journey. Some tell me to not work with other people, and I say, I love you, but I got to part ways with you. You know, that's not what this program's about. It's not about me coming here and saying I got mine. Now I'm going to go and just come to meetings. During that 18-month period, I had a friend that we were listening to a speaker tape when we were up in Chicago, and they were talking about this guy in Dallas, Texas, and his name was Chris R. And he said, you don't ever want to listen to that guy. When someone tells me don't ever do something, I'm going to do it. So when we got home, I went home and I listened to Chris R. And I had heard the message. I had heard the message for the first time as it's outlined in the book. And I'm not saying that everything I had done before that was wrong. It's my belief today that God honors the attempt more than he honors the rigidity of it. And I fell in love with Alcoholics Anonymous. I got involved with service work. I was a GSR. I was voted in. Wanted to do things like a group consciousness, and that particular group didn't want to do that, and they said that we can do without a GSR. And they didn't ask me to leave, but I stepped away. And I said, I'm not going to do service work. And that same man that saved my life had questions about the money that was going on at Area 22, and I said, well, I'm sure I could find that information out for you. I don't know why I said that, but I did. And I contacted the treasurer, and he said, why don't you come up to the area assembly, and I'll get you whatever you want, and we can sit down and talk. I didn't know that I was walking into an election assembly. Yeah, right? He was like, I would be willing to nominate you for the alternate chair for the treasury or something like that. And I was like, I don't know, can you do that? And he was like, yeah, and he ended up not, because then a friend of mine that was in area work, his service sponsor nominated me for the alternate chair of public information. I am currently serving today as Area 22's public information chair. And it's not a position of power, you know? It's not anything where it's like, oh, I'm going to dictate to every single district what you're doing. You here in District 53 are not doing things right, you know? It's like, no, I listen to what the districts want me to do. Do you want help? Do you need help with anything? Let me know. That's why I'm here, you know? If there's something that's particularly going on in any specific district, then I can then go to them and say, listen, a member of our committee has had this thought. Does this appeal to you? And if they say yes, you know, then we're working with them. If they say no, then it's pretty much a dead end. Service work saved my life. Commitments in AA saved my life. I wish I could tell you that there are periods in my sobriety where I did not think of suicide, but I think of suicide not every day. At least once a year. I had a sponsor that said, if you're not thinking about killing yourself once a year, you're probably not living right, you know? You know? Because I'm taking chances. You know, you're actually taking chances, and that's what this program's about. It's not, we don't come here to get sober and just stay in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. We're supposed to go out there. You know, I'm supposed to go and continue to carry this message. You know, I think it was Dr. Bob that said, carry the message, and if you must, use words, you know? I'm an example, you know? On any given day, I can be a vision for you or a cautionary tale, you know? And that's the truth of it. Some days I might not have any effect on you, and I might just be the guy in the room with his eyes closed, but it's not for me to really push myself on anyone or anything. Alcoholics Anonymous has done for me what, really desperation did for me, what I could not do for myself, and what would come to be God would do for me, what I could not do for myself. Find out things about myself that were dead inside. I had the opportunity to do something in conjunction with Area 23 for CPC, and we found ourselves at a non-public charter school event in Indianapolis. And we got a booth and we set it up there, and a lot of people walked by and they were like, why is AA here? Because the rest of it's like paper companies and like school supply companies and Lego. We were right next to the Lego booth. Yeah, you want to talk about a resentment, it's like you're to stick AA, which has nothing on the table, right next to the Lego booth, There were three of us there. We were like, that guy's got to have the coolest job in the world, But you would see these people that would come by, and they would circle by, and they would kind of make a darting glance at you, and, you would make eye contact with them, and immediately they would look away. And then in between these lulls, these people would come by, and they would start picking up literature, And that's my opportunity to say, hi, how are you today? My name is Matt. What can I do for you? Do you have any questions? And there were many people there that were receptive to that, One person that was, she was manning her own booth for another company in Oklahoma, found herself at our table asking questions about Alcoholics Anonymous, and we put her in contact with her intergroup office that day. That's why we're there, If I can reach one person today, I've done my job, That's my bar for success. Have I helped someone today? 95% of the time I hit it, So, I'm going to read you guys a couple things, and I think it's time to be quiet, because I think I've said my piece. Like I said, anything here is not really originally mine. This is a poem called Our Greatest Fear from Marion Williamson. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in every one. And as we let our own light shine, we are unconsciously given to other people the permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Lastly, this is something that I heard from who is now my friend, Chris R., in Dallas, Texas. And it's one of the best things I've ever heard in regards to helping other people. A drunk fell in a hole and couldn't get out. A businessman went by. The drunk called out for help. The businessman threw him some money and told him, "Get yourself a ladder." But the drunk could not find a ladder in the hole he was in. A doctor walked by. The drunk said, "Help, I can't get out." The doctor gave him drugs and said, "Take this, it will relieve the pain." The drunk said thanks, but when the pills ran out, he was still in the hole. A renowned psychiatrist rode by and heard the drunk's cries for help. He stopped and said, "How did you get there? Were you born there? Were you put there by your parents? Tell me about yourself. It will alleviate your sense of loneliness." So the drunk talked with him for an hour. Then the psychiatrist had to leave, but he said he'd be back next week. The drunk thanked him, but he was still in his hole. A priest came by and the drunk called for help. The priest gave him a Bible and said, "I'll pray for you." He got down on his knees and prayed for the drunk, then left. The drunk was very grateful. He read the Bible, but he was still stuck in the hole. A recovered alcoholic happened to be passing by. The drunk cried out, "Hey, help me." "I'm stuck in this hole." Right away, the recovered alcoholic jumped in the hole with him. The drunk said, "What are you doing?" "Now we're both stuck in here." But the recovering alcoholic said, "It's okay. I've been here before. I know how to get out. Thank you."